So here's a joke I came across in context of the Christian church. You know, Irish humour is great, and like Jewish humour, quite self-effacing. So Father Murphy was talking to his parishioners after Mass. "Patrick O'Leary," he said to one parishioner, "do you want to go to heaven?" And Patrick replies, "Ah, I do indeed, Father Murphy." And Father Murphy turns to another parishioner. "Kevin Shaughnessy," he said, "do you want to go to heaven?" "Ah, yes, of course I do, Father," said Kevin. "What about you, Kieran Donovan?" the priest asked. "Do you want to go to heaven?" And Kieran goes, "Ah, no, Father." And the priest says, "What? You don't want to go to heaven when you die?" And Kieran Donovan goes, "Oh, yes, I do when I die. I thought you were getting a party together to go there now." So it seems to me that religion and humour share the timeless endeavour to tackle the problems of life and the human condition, through religious and spiritual and humorous pursuits. So those weighty concerns are shared by both humour and spirituality, and so I find that humour has been used in just about every major world religion, and especially in the early days before they became institutionalized. Like, there is humour in Islam, and there is humour in the Quran, and there is humour in the Bible. They tend to come out there. They don't necessarily make us laugh out loud now, but they were humour of their time, but Sufism and possibly early Christianity and Jesus used humour and wordplay and probably entertained people in ways that don't make us fall about laughing now. And things like the early pre-institutionalized versions, I think, are stronger in humour, like Sufism, for instance. Zen Buddhism, Buddhist monks in Southeast Asia used to, and still do, go around communities, and if they go to a community where there's a big quarrel going on, they would sit in the market square and they'd just laugh. They'd just sit and get themselves to laugh spontaneously until they could get the proponents, whatever you call them, the people falling out, to get together and talk in this context of laughter, which I think is lovely. Chinese Taoism emphasizes humour a lot. Lao Tzu said, "If there were no laughter, the Tao would not be what it is." A chap called Liu Ling, whom I never heard about before, he was leader of the 7 sages of the Bamboo Grove in ancient China. He often went about without clothing on. I mean, he tried to shock people and entertain people and amuse people. And people would say, "Why are you going around naked?" And he would say, "The universe is my house, and this room is my trousers. What are you doing in my trousers?" And I think Zen similarly used humour to shock people into an awakening and a recognition of something that they didn't otherwise recognise. The German Protestant leader Martin Luther said, "If I'm not going to be allowed to laugh in heaven, I don't want to go there." Puritanism and Protestantism kind of was probably, Puritanism anyway, was quite anti-humour, and that was a kind of a blip in the progress of humour. Many latter-day gurus are laughing all the way to the bank. So I'm going to move forward a bit. Humour can be used to positive and negative effect, and I think for me it's very important to use it. You're not going to make spiritual progress, I think, with negative humour. So humour that binds people together rather than separates them, or that is used as a makes somebody else the butt of a joke, I don't think it's going to work. And some people do think that certain things are just too serious to laugh at, whereas serious comedians would argue that some things are so serious that if we don't laugh about them, we're going to be in serious trouble. A view I agree. So I've said here, this is a quote from me, humor prompts constant self-reflection and self-evaluation. Comedy reminds us of our weaknesses and our humanness, as well as our potential to improve ourselves. Humor mitigates against excessive self-importance and the taking of ourselves too seriously. So I've said, in short then, humour and laughter are essential to life, so spirituality without them must be seriously challenged, diminished and impoverished. Fortunately, most religions recognise this most of the time. So, and then I just want to look at one particular spiritual tradition that is noted for its humour, which is Judaism. Other religions are available. Judaism is a very ancient religion and has always used humour in the texts, in the religious procedures, and colloquially as well. So it's an interesting religion where humour is really recognised as central to everything, and a lot of it is self-effacing humour, and the paradoxical intrusion of the comical into the most serious realms of life. So I think Jewish humour is great, and of course Jewish humour is a big component of modern humour because of the entertainment industry and the US and how prevalent that is, and how influential Jewish people are in entertainment, in producing films and in acting, and that's part of the great joy of life. Jewish humour, I've said here, refers constantly to elements like Jewish ethnic tendencies, like anxious self-torment, the neurotic ability to create your own difficulties, and the problems of life caused by your own nearest and dearest. And a lot of Jewish humour centres around that. And there's a very strong vein of self-ridicule. I've got a Jewish joke here somewhere. One Jewish joke I like is it's actually a Holocaust joke, and the Holocaust was just about the worst thing you could imagine being in, and yet there was humour there, and of course quite a lot of the humour there was at the expense of somebody, but it's understandable. So one of the jokes that came out of that was, in the Holocaust era, there, as the Second World War was coming to an end, there was a joke going around about Hitler in his bunker, and he was, he relied on astrologers a lot. You know about that? And he called in his best astrologer and said, "I fear I'm going to die, sometime soon. On what day am I going to die?" And the astrologer kind of consulted some books and thought for a while and wondered what he should say. And eventually said, "It seems you're going to die on a Jewish holiday." and Hitler said, "Yeah, but which Jewish holiday?" And the astrologer said, "Well, any day you die will be a Jewish holiday." So that's another type of humour. So a lot of it is about the ability to laugh at our predicament, and that can enable a turning point in dealing with life's challenges, and or at least relating differently, or sharing together with other people the difficulty of things. But it's also a part of one's growth. I think, like, I see a comedian like Woody Allen doing humour, and he will make fun of how his own neuroses, like he famously said, he famously didn't enjoy life, was always complaining. He said, "My view of life is very much like the story of the two Jewish women at a bar mitzvah, and one of them says, 'The food here is not very good, is it?' And the other one says, 'Yes, and there's so little of it.'" and it's a famous joke, but bears repeating. And Woody Allen saying that's my attitude to life. And so humour is recognition plus surprise. So we relate to what he says, but we're a bit surprised when the punchline comes. And in laughing at jokes like that, we are admitting we recognize that we've been there, and our laughing is like a subtle way of saying I admitting that and accepting that and taking a light-hearted view of it for a moment, which can make things more bearable and maybe enables us to see the way forward. So that's good. Yeah, great to see people making notes. And so not taking things too seriously. Of course, not being in denial about the difficulties, really, that's misuse of humour. Laughing at ourselves, recognising the commonality of our misfortunes and life's challenges and how universal those are, and the unwanted things that are happening that we'd rather weren't happening. I'll just read a little from some of my books. There's not much time left. I've brought along Knitting Patterns from Atlantis. 2 copies of this left. There. This is my comic novel. It's set in Ireland, and it's kind of literary novel. There is a lot of humour in it, and little line drawings. And Atlantis does come into it somewhat. This is a book called Cats Are From Venus. Excuse me. This is a book called Cats Are From Venus, Dogs Are From Mars. It's not about cats and dogs really, it's about men and women and the intricacies of relationships, but it uses that vehicle to talk about cats are a bit like, women are a bit like cats, men are a bit like dogs, and how do they relate to each other in a humorous way. This is called The Weekend Shaman and Other Dodgy New Age Characters. It's got like a drawing and a page of text for each of New Agey archetypes: the sadistic acupuncturist, the past life junkie, the extreme sports freak, the sham vegetarian, and the obnoxious aromatherapist, the mediocre medium. You've met them all. The workshop fanatic. And this is Astral Sex to Zen Teabags, which Sina kindly mentioned. And it's a kind of alphabetical, affectionate listing of definitions of spiritual, new agey, mind, body, spirit things. For example, affirmations. I have said affirmations are, it's very tongue-in-cheek, affirmations are things that people repeat ad nauseam about what they would like to have happen in their lives instead of actually doing something about it. NLP, people are good at this. I call not learning properly, I affectionately call it. Although some of my best friends are NLP masters. They're all masters. Nobody's not a master. There's a book called Teach Yourself Affirmations by a woman called Anita Delusion. And she shows that affirmations can be created for almost any situation. It gives helpful guidance on structure, terminology, etc. And my favorite affirmation is, one of them is, there is no getting away from it. I'm simply better than everyone else. But I think my most used one is the affirmation for constipation. Abundant poos flow from me now with joy and ease. It's always good to have joy and ease and abundant if you can put those in. So those are just some little snippets. We're going to do a book signing afterwards, and you can obtain copies. You can get them signed. You can talk to me about stuff. But we've got a few minutes, I think, for any questions and answers.
Yeah, maybe one or two questions.
Yeah. Are you taking any still photos at all?
No, but
Could you? That would be good. One of the things I do is I coach people in using humour and comedy, and sometimes it's business people who just want to be more confident about public speaking or who want to use humour. Sometimes it's comedians. Sometimes people who just like to use a humorous sense of humour in life. So you can learn. Everybody has got that. Although some people will be told you're just not funny, shut up. And I think it's about things like being authentic. You're not trying to imitate somebody else, not trying too hard, and about developing a comedian's mind that sees you know, like the juxtaposition of things that will be funny, or the recognition and the surprise, and the collision of two things that are surprising to find together. So you know, so it is something that I've studied quite a bit, and you know, learned myself. So it can be done. Yeah, we can be in touch if you give me your email. Yes, sir. It's like that. Woody Allen said there is the science of setup and punchline. So, like, one of the ways I learned to do comedy is to rant about something that I feel strongly about. I mean, I look for humour in the areas of life that are challenging and difficult, and my own shortcomings, like my pedantry, you know, I wish people would just say things right, you know, like it's the goalkeeper, you know, I'll hear a football commentator, oh, he was saved by the goalpost, you know. He was saved by the woodwork, you know. First of all, it's not woodwork anymore, it's polycarbonate. And secondly, the shot was off target because it hit the post. And, you know, so things like that, you know, and my annoyance when people invite you to dinner and don't have dinner ready. So you go into the kitchen and cook a meal, and for some reason they don't like that. Or if in extreme case, a hostage crisis. So I draw on that, you know, the challenge of my relationship with my wife, and what's lovely about it and what's difficult about it. But you can't do the mechanics of humour, but I think it's better to have an intuitive approach, just like a feeling for what you think will be funny, how do you say it, and try it out in different people and try it a different way. Woody Allen, again, I think said, you can dissect a joke, but it's like a frog in a dissection lab. You understand how the frog works, but the frog is dead, you know, and jokes die like that. Have you a question or a point of view?
Question. Which gurus do you think have a good sense of humour?
I think what's his name that's dead and had hundreds of Rolls Royces? Osho. He used humour a lot. Although, you know, he's not my favourite guru for various reasons, but I've been influenced a lot by sannyasins in my life have been big laughers, you know. But I think nearly Ram Dass is probably one of the greatest, if you know him. Have you any favourites?
Yeah, Gurdjieff, I think.
Gurdjieff, yeah.
Yeah, he was practical humour with him.
I think one of the most unfunny people who studied humour a lot was the father of psychoanalysis. I'm name lexic, I've forgotten his name. Freud. And he wrote a book, Jokes and the Unconscious, which is the least funny book anyone has ever written. So analysis kind of is the enemy of humour, really, isn't it?